Gearbox just made a change in Borderlands 4 where now, depending on the Ultimate Vault Hunter rank you are on, your dedicated drop rates will be scaled up by a specific amount. But how much exactly is that? Well, unfortunately, they didn't provide exact values, which is why we luckily have the data mine values to disclose to the community so that everybody knows what they're farming for and how. But as you'll see as we go through this video, this is going to get stickier and stickier, and I've got some choice words about it. So before we get into how UVH scales your rates, let's first talk about the overall changes to drops in the game. The biggest ones is that the bod has now changed from a 3% drop chance to a 9% drop chance. And in the case of Bloomreaper, there's been many notable changes. Mainly, the Mantra has a 15% drop chance now, the Jetsetter, Undershield, and Urchin have an 11% drop chance, and the class mods and the chest are unchanged. Now into how UVH affects drop rates. Depending on the Ultimate Vault Hunter rank you are playing on, each individual drop table in Borderlands 4 will receive an additional percentage per rank. So for example, if you are playing on UVH1, the primary table will get an additional 2%, meaning if the bod is a 9% drop chance but you are playing on UVH1, it is now an 11% drop chance. If you then play on UVH2, it is now a 13% drop chance. If you play on UVH3, it goes up to 15%, and so on, so forth. This table here showcases every single bonus per UVH level and for the row. It also shows, so that you don't have to do the addition yourself, what you're currently getting at the max level. We can see here that the primary table at UVH6 is increased by 12%, secondary by 9%, tertiary by 6%, and the shiny table by 0.6%. So in the case of the bod, which sits at a 9% drop chance, if you are now playing on UVH6, it's a 21% drop chance, and when they eventually add UVH7, that will go up to a 23% drop chance, and so on, so forth. Now back on the Bloomreaper table, you can see that I have it clearly listed, whether or not it's affected by the scaler, and if so, what table. But this does not come without bugs. There is some bugs that were added in with this update, and they are as follows. For starters, Vault Guardian Radix, who is the one that you'll find in Carcadia, these pools are actually unaffected by the scalers regardless of which one you fight, whether that be normal or big encore. So currently, none of that applies to that boss. That's an oversight on Gearbox's part. And some previous issues that still have not been fixed with this update is that Harlow's class mod does not seemingly drop from Inceptus at all, whereas it should. And additionally, the Spinning Blade and also the non-shiny versions of the Wombo Combo and the Potato Thrower IV will drop at the base shiny percentage if that boss is ever big encored by Gearbox. And if that's too complicated for you to understand, all you need to know is that it's bad, because it essentially means that those items are going to drop at a 0.3% drop chance. But here's the kicker. The biggest and most egregious bug that was added in with this update is that currently the big encore bosses and their shiny drop odds are unaffected by the UVH scaler. To be clear, I mean big encore as in the weekly bosses that Gearbox power up so that you can go and get much easier drops from. They have twice the HP and also a flat 25% drop chance for the items in their pool. And additionally, any shiny in their pool becomes a 0.7% drop chance, whereas it is typically a 0.3% drop chance. Now, naturally, it goes without saying that if the scaler affected those rates, you'd be seeing way better rates on your big encore, and as such, it would be even more worth to go after those bosses each week. But according to Gearbox on Twitter, this is an intentional change. And despite me already responding to someone and saying that I don't believe them, they decided to respond to me and double down on this, saying that this is intentional because Big Encore is for everyone and UVH is for players who are so high skilled that they can show off their skill level and get better drops. This statement by them, I'm going to call a spade, is a flat out lie. And if it's not a lie, then we are so cooked that I don't even know what to say anymore. Like, this is base level balancing that you should have down in a looter shooter. And just in case it wasn't already clear why, I'm going to deliver very level-headed feedback as to why that is in this video, because apparently from the official account, this is not clear already. The idea of the big encore is that you double the health of the boss the player faces and you massively up the rates so that they can get loot faster from that boss each week. It is a reason to log on. However, it is locked behind players with a build strong enough to take down that boss. And more importantly, if you want to farm that target fast, you need to have a good build capable of doing so. Using the deflection that Big Encore is for everyone is either a gross misrepresentation of the content itself or just a flat out lie, because the content, at least from my perspective, is clearly geared towards players who are able to take down those bosses. As it currently stands, if a UVH6 player is to go and fight the Big Encore boss on UVH6, they will have factually worse odds for shiny items to drop. And when we eventually climb higher and higher with our drop odds, the primary table is going to end up eclipsing the drop rates of 25%. We are currently at a point where anything that's a 9% rate is a 21% rate on UVH6. Eventually, when we get to UVH10, you will have better dedicated drop odds by not doing the Big Encore because it does not scale with it. So if what Gearbox is saying here is true and UVH ranks are designed for players who have higher skill and can be rewarded for it is to be believed, then they are completely and utterly contradicting themselves with the way the game's being designed. This update was made so that players have a reason to turn up the UVH rank. They previously did not, and it was better to just farm on default difficulty unless you wanted to get better firmware or new firmware that's locked behind UVH ranks. However, with this update, they've now made it so that you should be farming on the highest UVH rank possible for the best odds. However, what's going to happen basically immediately now with shinies, and you're going to see it happen eventually as well when it comes to the primary table with their drops, is that you are going to quite literally be putting yourself at a disadvantage farming on the max difficulty once again. We are going round in circles with balance in this game, and I don't know who fed the person behind the official account the statement of this being intentional, but I'm going to say this very clear. Number one, I don't believe you. And number two, if I am wrong and you are telling the truth and this was done on purpose, we are cooked. There is absolutely no way you can justify counter-designing a mechanic in your game like this, and it's so frustrating that I have to, on a video like this, talk and bitch and moan about it, because it's such a base level part of design that should not even be up for contention right now. There should be no situation where you're on Twitter saying that your fallacy in design is intentional. That is crazy to me, and I thought we left that back in Borderlands 3, but clearly we're still repeating the same mistakes. So I wanted to make this video not only to clear up the actual rates in the game, because Gearbox weren't going to tell us clearly, but also because they are now claiming that them counter-designing a mechanic in their game is intentional design. I feel like I'm losing my mind, but I hope this video clears up any misinformation that maybe could circulate as a result of this, and hopefully Gearbox, if this is intentional, wake up and roll this back, because this is crazy, and the fact that you're not scaling one of your weekly endgame activities with your endgame rank is just mind-blowing to me, and honestly, symbolic of where we're at with endgame. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this helped you out, and yeah, stay tuned for more videos coming soon, and thanks for watching.